We'll have the pledge of allegiance by Sharon.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The regular meeting of the Park Board of the City of Connersville, Indiana is now in session. Please turn your cell phone ringers off. Roll call.
Jen Conaway, Jeff Cooley,
Here.
Kenny Burgess,
Here.
Dave Young,
Here.
Sharon McQueen,
Here.
and Tom Powers.
Here. Okay, we'll have the reading of the minutes of the May 29th meeting.
Does anyone have any changes or corrections that need to be made?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
We got a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Been motion and seconded, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. New business, tennis court, restroom, rural, Brenda Lee.
Brenda informed me just a little bit ago that she was not able to make it tonight. She had approached me a couple of weeks ago about having one done, a mural on the north side of the tennis court restroom, the side that faces 30th Street. She hasn't told me yet what it is that they are wanting to put on there or who's doing it. She did ask if the Art Association would be interested, and I kind of informed her that this year's an auction year and you all are very busy. I told her that Kenny had approached Mrs. Bamer at the art house, and if that's someone they could look at. And she said they also have a couple of art people who play pickleball. So I just told her that I would inform you guys of what it is that they are wanting to do, and that our next meeting she'll have to come and give us some kind of artwork or what it is that she's wanting to put on there to move forward with that. So,
Now, will that have to go for HCI?
yeah.
Have to go before.
Historic preservation.
Yeah. That's what I figured. That's what I was gonna ask, same question.
So I would assume it'd be like anything else. We approve it pending their approval.
Their approval.
So, does anybody have any questions for her that I can relay?
Speaking of the restrooms, the men's side is done and they're working on the women's side now?
We have not put the stalls in yet, but the restroom on the men's side has been painted. The women's is prepped and ready to go. We're gonna do the stalls all on one day. So,
Yeah, 'cause I went up there Saturday, to look at men's side was locked,
yeah,
it was open.
the paint was real tacky, so we're afraid that if people stepped on it, it would just come off. So we're giving it some time
Do you
to.
have the stalls now or?
Yeah, we just got them Friday, so,
Okay, so you got everything to get it finished?
yes.
Good, good.
So what do they plan on painting? I know she hasn't said, but do you have any idea what they're wanting to paint on that?
I don't know. I would assume some pickleball, tennis, something or other.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
Any more comment? Okay, we'll have the next on the thing is dog park rules and regulations and registration.
You all have the registration form and the rules. Does anybody have any questions about that? Or any?
This all went to the attorney, right?
Yes, he's called me and signed off on it and said it looked great, so.
When do we think we'll have the dog park open? Are we targeting?
I'm hoping the first full week in July. We also need to decide tonight on a fee that we're going to be charging, what that amount is. That will have to go for the next council meeting, because they'll have to amend an ordinance on the fees that we charge at the park. I didn't know if you guys had any ideas about what kind of price we'd be charging for the year. With this form and everything, you'll have to fill it out and provide us your shot records and everything like that. And then you'll get a code for the keyless entry, and that will change January 1st every year. And then you'll also have a colored dog tag for your dog, and it'll be numbered. So that's kind of what's involved with it. And we do have a sponsor too. We just kind of nailed that down today. And at our next meeting, we'll have more information on that. We'll have an agreement, and everything.
Sit down and talk to them a little more about it. We just finished it up about 2 o'clock today, so we'll have more on that. They're really excited to be a part of it. So.
On the cost, have we checked with anybody else that's got a dog park that they're charging for?
I mean, they range from free to $60 a year, so I mean, there's really, it's kind of whatever we
Our
want to do.
goal isn't to make money off of it.
No,
Yeah.
it's just to kind of keep up with it.
I think so.
Didn't you have a number?
I was kind of thinking around $12 a month. That way, if we get somebody who comes in halfway through the year, a couple months after January or something, we can kind of prorate it. But, so $1 a month, basically.
That's what I thought you said.
Oh, I
You said-
thought you were
$12 a
saying.
month, sorry, $12 a year.
I was gonna say, man, you're charging quite a
I was
bit.
gonna say, that ain't what we discussed, but okay.
We're gonna have all kinds of
Oh,
fun
yeah,
selling that
that'd
park.
be- Yeah, 12, I thought you were saying $12 a month.
Sorry, $12 per year, $1 per month.
Yeah, I thought you were really jamming them. Yeah, that would be, you know,
Well, with having it sponsored, I mean, that's gonna help keep the cost down like anything else, just like our sports and everything
you know,
else.
if
So,
you're taking, you're gonna have some upkeep costs. I mean, like Kenny said, we're not trying to make money, we're just trying to,
Control.
Sounds reasonable.
kind of reasonable move. I'll make a motion and we make the fees for the dog park at $1. Well, I guess it either, are you gonna do it $1 a month, or you gonna charge them just a flat? I guess we better talk about before I make a motion.
Yeah,
Are we gonna charge them for a full year, or are you just gonna charge them by the month?
you don't really want people coming
I don't
in
wanna
once
do
a
I was
month.
gonna
Per
say,
month, yeah.
we'd drive Erica
So-
nuts.
$12 is so cheap.
Yeah,
I don't even know why you have to worry about prorating it.
yeah.
say
Let's just
$12.
say $12 a year.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we charge $12 a year for the dog park
So
membership.
when does that start? Is that January 1st or?
Well, I guess we could do it from whatever day we open it. So July, whatever, be the, you know, be the
Or maybe in July, you just charge them for, what, 6 months or whatever?
$6 or
And have
whatever.
it-
We'll just run it from July to June.
I think you run it July to June, because I don't think you're gonna get many people coming like January 1 to
Yeah.
pay for that. So, and then,
That
Well,
makes
give them a special if they get it a little bit cheaper if they sign up in that month.
the Christmas special.
$12 is cheap.
Okay. And then I think we'll need a motion to accept the registration form and the rules too.
Did we have a second
We got a
on that?
motion on the floor for the
Oh,
call
The
for,
fee.
sorry.
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
So real fast, so if we do it, or how are we doing it? Then is it starting in
July.
July then? That's so a year from July every year? Okay. Because that way, I don't know if people want to do it one full summer. I mean, $12 isn't very much money, but it's, you're not catching a full year, I guess. That's what we can always change it.
Well, you walk your dogs, it don't matter. You come play unless it snows 10 feet deep.
Okay.
It's from July to July.
I'll make a motion that we approve the dog rules and regulations form. We haven't done that yet.
We got a motion to approve the rules. Have a second?
Second.
Been seconded, we got a motion, it's been seconded, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
And then, I don't know if any of you saw, but on Facebook, we asked for suggestions on the dog park name. We had a lot, around 80 or so, I think it was. So, what we decided to do was take whichever ones had the most likes or whatever on it, and put those in a poll. So we had top 2, and one was Roberts Bark Park. Roberts Bark Park, and the other was Bark in the Park. And I believe the winner as of this afternoon was Roberts Bark Park. So on the sign it'll say Roberts Bark Park, sponsored by, and then the person who's sponsoring it. So if everyone is all right with that name.
I like Bark in the Park.
Did you vote?
I don't think it's that.
Okay, next on the agenda, superintendent's report.
For the month of May, our appropriations were $53,636.20. And revenue was $18,934.50, which brings our yearly total just under $65,000. Does anyone have any questions about that? Did you have anything you wanted to add here?
The pool swimming lessons, that's zero, that's because that didn't start till.
Yeah, I didn't start till June.
We had 56, which was good, really well. So it was off to a good start, and then we'll have another set July 10th or 9th or 10th, I believe it starts. So we'll be above where we normally are on swim lessons. First session seemed to be going really well, so we had one date that got rained out so far. So
The chlorinator's working fine now.
It's going good.
there you had to jinx it.
Not convinced it's fixed, but we think it is.
Well, it's
It's new, it better
Yeah.
be.
yeah, it's good now. So
Yeah, okay.
Is that all on new business? Go to old business,
no.
work list.
List for July includes finishing up some things that we didn't quite get all the way done in June. And then also painting and repairing the amphitheater benches. Our goal is to get that done before the fair. And then also we've been working on Clio Fountain. We spent quite a few days down there trying to figure that all out. And I believe the utilities will be helping us sometime this week whenever they get a chance, and we're gonna have to take the top off of it. It's either clogged or something frozen busted in there, so.
Sounds like lime, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be limed up, so hopefully we can get that taken off, cleared out, and the fish shall be working once again. So, that's where we're at, where we are at with that.
Good. I got a couple questions from the meeting note, from our previous meeting notes. On the Longwood Bridge, we'd talked about applying for a grant for the repairs to the supports and the siding on it.
Yes, I have reached out to Jim Barker, sorry, and telling him that we are wanting to move forward with it and just waiting to see what the next step is. So I'm waiting to hear back from him on that.
Is he the one, is he actually gonna do the applying for the application, or?
That's what I need to find out from him.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
If we do it or if that's something they also provide, so.
Okay. Is this when you talked to him, or did you talk to him? Jackie?
I haven't talked to him since our last meeting. I left him several messages.
Okay, I just wondered how soon that looks like that could take place. Because we know we're
As
gonna
far as
have a
applying.
fairly lengthy period before
Yeah.
we actually get it repaired. A matter of years, but at least we'd like to get the grant application started.
Yes.
And then another question I had on the previous minutes was on the security system installation around the Miller Building. Is that
Yep.
completed now? Good.
Yep.
Is pretty good? Look, I mean, you got all four cameras on all four corners? Good.
Yeah, they showed us how to work the system on the computer so we can play back stuff and switch some things around. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to run. So, and the picture's clear, so.
On the Longwood Bridge, it wasn't in the last meeting, but I did have talked to some of our maintenance guys up here, and we talked about it previously. Since we think it's gonna be 3 to 4 years before that is repaired, could be. We talked about putting lighting on the corners to try to, two things, make it stand out more in the evening, and then second of all, from a security standpoint, keep people from getting in there. I think we were talking about holding off on that, but if it's gonna be 3 or 4 years,
Go ahead and move
I'd like
forward
for
with
us to consider and get some quotes on going ahead and putting up lighting on spotlights like we did on the Miller
Miller Center.
Building, on that 4 corners of that, and then even on the inside. I'd really like to see the inside of that thing lit up pretty good at night, because people get in there and I think there's potentially some things going on inside there at night that we'd prefer not going on at the park.
So something similar to what we did at the Miller Building, inside
Yeah.
and outside.
Yeah.
So our guys could probably do that, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. They did a good job on the Miller Building. I mean, I think there's even talking like they thought we'd need to put more in, but what we got in at least makes the Miller Building safer at night when people come out. You know, aesthetically looks better, so. Okay.
I have, about the pool, the clover again. Last year we went through this and had clover, and when I've been up there with the swimming lessons, and there's just, nobody goes into the grass because it's just, there's clover everywhere because of all the bees. But if we could get that and keep that sprayed to where that, you know, it would help a lot.
And we have
That-
sprayed it once so far this year.
Yeah, I
We'll
thought
hit
it didn't
again.
look too bad to begin with, but now they're all coming out. And then the splash pad, that's what you call it, the thing, there's things wrong with that, is that right? Is it like, I know the one thing that has water spraying out of it, there's like, I don't know, 6 of them spraying out, and there's all of it. So that doesn't seem like that's working right. Is that right?
No.
They all seem like they are. I mean, he just cleaned them all out. Everything seems to be working like it should be. But we can look at it again tomorrow, but
It just looks like they're just 3 or 4 of them spraying water and none of the other ones are.
Are you talking about the yellow thing?
It's just a pole.
yeah, it's yellow
Yeah.
pole.
Did that used to have a umbrella on top
No,
of it?
it's
I
just
didn't
a
think
spray
so.
pole.
Yeah, but and then the water gun things. Maybe you guys didn't have it turned on or something, is that possible? 'Cause
Well, they
I
don't
saw
turn it
kids-
on until the end of swim lessons because the kids want to go play with that.
Oh, I know,
instead,
but this was after that, but maybe it wasn't even turned on, it's possible, but it was after that. But even the gun things, it didn't seem like they worked right, and I didn't know, I never
We kind of
actually.
was looking at it today. I mean, Senator talking and it seemed to be working really well, but
That's
we'll
fine,
take a
that's
look at it.
good. Just want to make sure. And I keep talking about shade. I've talked about shade at the pool. When I go up there, it seems like every little piece of shade, there's somebody hiding in that shade, you know, from the slides, and they're, you know, that's where they go. I wish we could find a way to get some kind of shade up there, whether it's, Jess, I sent you a
Yeah, I saw
grant-
that right
A
before.
grant that, there's a lot of them out there for dermatological or dermatology for grants to build shades or structures so you can get under the shade. But we need to do something up there to get some shade. I'd like to get something up there a little bit this year, if possible. I mean, there's a couple of umbrellas, but, you know, by the time you get people huddled underneath of those, and then the rest of it's, so, you know, we
I'll
talked
look at
about
that.
this, we talked about those, sun sails, you know, and those aren't that expensive. So if we could come up with something like that, you know, for, it's even less than $100 to put one of those up and see how that works, maybe.
Okay. Speaking of grants, I did talk to Diana Wright. She said she'd be happy to come to one of our meetings,
Good.
and we can kind of give her ideas of what we're looking for as far as grants are concerned, and she'll do whatever she can to help us out. So I don't know if she'll be able to come to the next meeting, but maybe the one in August.
Okay.
So, but I'll keep on her about showing up to one.
Yeah, because you got to get started on them if you want them. 'Cause
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Any more on the work list? Those claims including payroll.
Actually, it was pretty clean. I mean, I don't see any, I've got any really big questions on.
Okay.
I got some, most of them, I know what's going on. I know the equipment, or repair of equipment.
And the mower.
We're down to 30, we had some mower repairs, I know what that was. Minor equipment repair, we're down to 30% there, and office supplies, we've known, at the first of the year, we spent quite a bit in there, and we gotta kind of watch where we're going. There, we're down to 35%, so, and we have been keeping that pretty close. I think last month we only spent $80, so we're down to a balance of $760 in
Yeah.
that particular account, so. Other than that, I think I'll make a motion, we accept the claims as they are.
Got a motion to accept the claims as they are. Have a second? Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We have the public.
Did you go to this podium?
Yeah.
My name's Alice Allen, and I'm the person that I was from New York. I was born and raised right across the border in Ohio. I was born in Miami Valley Hospital. And first of all, I want to thank you guys, because really the park is a beautiful park. But in my eyes, there's so much more that they could do. And it's not because of it's because of lack of funding, lack of ideas, lack of people that care. And I want to give you my experience from Connersville. I came to this city after being gone 30 years because of neurological. I came from a small town whose post office is open till 11 o'clock. It's a small town. I know what economic depression is, but I also know what oppression is. And I brought horses to Connersville. I brought 40 horses into the state of Indiana. My daily expense that I spend in Connersville is $500 a day. Last month I spent $16,000 in this little town. Feed, grain, employment, buying a new trailer from a local guy. And I see things kind of like out of the box. My husband's a former Marine. We started a project called Project Riggins. And I sent a horse here 3 years ago to the state of Indiana. He's one of the leading sires in the state of Indiana. And his sire is a stallion who breeds mares. We name all his foals after the fallen soldiers. We've gotten the racetracks to commit for free dinners, and I've contacted their families so they could hear their child's name just called one last time. But it's a tough time to bring this kind of idea to Connersville. And I'll explain to you why. I saw an ad, new barn, stall rent. This is what is here. In the state of Indiana, we have what's called the Indiana Standardbred Development Association. And the harness people and the racehorse people, we don't have pensions. We don't have a weekly check. We don't have a 401k. But all of them decided to give $1 million a year to the counties and the fairs associations that sponsored harness racing. That's a lot of money. Connersville was given numerous grants. $38,000 for the Red Barn that I guess everybody fought about. Another $40,000 to build another barn. Another big block of money for electric. Our industry pays $6,000 a day for 3 hours of racing here in the town of Connersville. 2-3 times a year. We paid to build the judges' stand, your announcers' stand, in the middle of the racetrack. Well, I had the great pleasure of coming here. They said, we're building a new barn. The state appropriated another grant. The Fair Board voted the grant down. And you see, I have a couple contracts with you guys. I shouldn't have any. All right? If there was a grant awarded to build a 12-stall barn and a 10-stall barn, those barns should have been built for our industry. A storage shed was built. So I had to come to you people, or they had to come to you people and lease your barn. A barn that had been locked up for 1.5 years. And many refer to us all down at that bottom area as barn people. I'm not a barn person. I'm highly educated. If you only knew where my kids work and what they did. And they weren't children that are my own. It's kids that worked with horses that we raised. So I had a lot of problems. No one would pick up the manure. Mr. McQuinley ran around saying, we have to do this, we have to do that. So I'll tell you what I did. I went to Mayor Gordon. He talked to the city park or the superintendents of the streets, and they picked it up for me. He was gracious. I met with this young man over here. And there's a lot that our industry has to give. A lot of money for harness racing. They asked the Fair Board to come to you people and sign a piece of paper for $1 lease or create a piece of paper that said that harness racing would be perpetual. They voted no. I was told by Mr. Hood, no one gives our community a stipulation. All right. So Mr. Gordon said that I should come and tell you people exactly what is. And here's what is. There were 3 bids to build a barn within that city. They weren't turned in. There was some man named Craig Risch. His bid wasn't turned in. But he volunteered to fix the Whitmore barn for free for the city. Pay for the materials, get the materials, and fix it for free. Our industry wanted to give back because that's how we bring people to our industry. But it's pretty hard. I met with you, Jessica, at the same time. I showed you, like in a boarding agreement, how in the real world a boarding agreement goes, where you have to have vaccines, you have to have a veterinarian to be able to contact to avoid all liability from the city. But I also have one thing, and that's the deed to Roberts Park. And that man had a vision. He had a vision that was far beyond what anyone could recognize here. Because he also had a will. And so did a fellow named Mr. Myers. And in his deed, it says that that park must be maintained like a city park. Those horse barns aren't maintained like a city park. Perhaps due to the financial incarceration of the city. But the city hasn't been poor for 25 years. Everyone tells me when I speak to them, it's because it's out of sight, out of mind. You drive over the hill, nobody sees it. And I hear all of the board members writing, talking about grants. 2 weeks ago, United States government approved $5 million for the veterans to work with horses for post-traumatic stress. So instead of everyone saying, we'll put a drug center here, or rehab center here, or we'll forget about this here, it's easy to apply for those grants. It was a perfect scenario. They did it with the thoroughbreds in the Kentucky Derby. They do it all over through the state of New York. They do it everywhere in the country, and it's something that could have been done here. And I don't know if I will stay. And it's not because of the people. There's a lot of people that have just been wonderful. All the people, I rented a house here for a year, I'll have to pay that. I lost my racing season because someone brought a sick horse in down to the city barns, and I've got 12 sick. I can't ship them anywhere because I can't subject our industry to have a major shutdown. But when I leave, or if I choose to stay, I will have known that I've made Connersville a better town. Because I'm not a barn person. My name's Alice Allen. I love what I do. I'm proud to be a representative of our industry. And I speak from my heart. But there will never be an industry that steals from the people of whom I represent. Never. And before I leave, harness racing's coming through your front door again. Maybe a lemonade stand. Maybe a grill where they could get a hot dog. Maybe, just maybe, they could have hot water to wash their horses. Because they've come here since 1902. Mr. Myers will, he wanted harness racing for life. That's why they built the track. All of our generations didn't build the track. The state of New York, or not New York, Indiana, sorry, I've only been here a short time. State of Indiana, they wanted to make sure like the tractor pulls are held on the inside. They are. Look, you can see where they were. All they wanted was the demolition derby and the tractor pulls held on the inside. They were. So why would this city not want that funding, or want that money, or want an opportunity? It didn't make any sense to me. And when I addressed the issue with I addressed the issue with Ted McQuinley. Well, what I was told, us Midwest guys, we stick together. What I was told by another Fair Board member, look, the reason we voted it down, we consider you overbearing. I think out of the box. I knew how to write a grant. I knew how to do the things to bring money, to bring business. I started the first politician's race in the state of New York. The kids that I've raised through the harness racing industry is the chief counsel for the Secretary of Interior for the United States government and was transferred for the chief comptroller for the United States Department of Ag. So horses have been good to me. They'll be good to the veterans. But perhaps one day, when a person like me walks through your door, maybe they needs a school of etiquette. Because I wasn't the one that applied for a grant for a horse overage facility in a 12-stall barn where there is no stalls in it, where it's a 3-prong wire so everybody can plug in for the RVs. Because I would have had to sign a contract with you people for a condemned barn. So I don't understand why there's such a division in your community, or if it's a lack of leadership, a lack of communication. But I don't know any people right now that are saying, here, let's put $200,000 into Connersville. And Mr. Young, Mr. Gordon spoke highly of you. He said you're a good numbers man. He spoke very highly. $6,000 for 3 hours is a lot of money. 2-3 times a year. See, all you people don't realize, we paid for the drag, we paid for the harrows, we paid for resurfacing the track, we paid for the tractors, your judges' stands we paid to construct on city property. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for something to be accepted like that. And I thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I thank you because in all consideration, the Fair Board's a not-for-profit. The city parks are usually not-for-profits. At the end of the day, you want it better for the next generation. And it takes a vision. You know, if people didn't have a vision, Colonel Robert Parks would have never left this park to you people. And in this deed and in his will, the city of Connersville had been good to him. He moved away. He was a bachelor. He appointed for 3 fair board members. And why he left this to you? 1965, they sold the land where the fair was. And he wanted a fair. He wanted a place for someone to go. But he wanted it taken care of. And I would hope that all of you would understand that a little boy played baseball in your park. Coached baseball in that park in the middle of that infield. And his name was Craig Risch. And he came to this city and volunteered to rebuild those barns at his expense, to put his name on that door because he was proud. He was proud to have been here and been from here. But that was never turned in to the Standardbred Development Fund. So he went to Mr. Gordon himself, as well as myself, and made that commitment today. So you'll have your barns fixed on his time. But for me, when the state can't come in and subsidize doing the racetrack anymore, and the Indiana Standardbred Association can't come in and give you guys $10,000 and $15,000 to paint your grandstand, or buy another tractor, or buy another drag. It was a very selfish vote, not willing to compromise with the city of Connersville. And I can guarantee you, because I don't walk away lightly, someone will pay our industry for the construction of that barn. Because horse people aren't bottom feeders. There's always a reason why you go to livestock and animals. and it's usually from the heart. So if, before I leave, Mr. Young, if you'd like to sit down with the United States military, because it's a $5 million project, that's a lot of money for here. And at least we could sit down. I've contacted our industry and spoke highly of the people. All my neighbors from the city blocks around wanted to mark in this room. I said, there isn't any point. What's done is done. But in our industry, grants aren't hard to obtain. In January, by January, they all submit them. The Indiana Standardbred Association, they accept a request for things $20,000 or less. But it's to promote harness racing and for the betterment of horses. So if it takes me a little longer, Jessica, to be out of your city barn, my horses are very sick. You'll have to excuse me, I'm waiting for the veterinary reports from Purdue to come back to make sure that it's not highly contagious to where I could wipe out our entire industry. And I thank all of you people for your time. All right?
I got a couple, because you're talking about a vote that was taken and turned down.
Yes.
I have no idea what vote, does anybody know what vote?
Fair board.
The Fair Board.
Okay.
The Fair Board voted not to,
Yeah, because I
On
mean, you're
Thursday-
saying that, you know, like,
No.
I felt like we did.
No, no.
I know we didn't vote.
You didn't. What happened is Lorraine Draves, I have her card in my purse. She's the executive administration for the Standard Development Fund. They came down to the city of Connersville, her and Laura and a man named Sam Henley. They came down to meet with me because there was a 20-stall grant application turned in to build a barn. But they were a little smart this time. They wanted to see the other facilities that were built. And had a lot of questions. How things were built, why things were built. And she said, you know, it was brought to the attention that, Alice, you brought 22 in here. Why aren't they in the other barn? There are no stalls in that other barn. It's a storage facility. There aren't any beams. You have a 16-foot garage door with no windows in a barn. You have no access to a racetrack.
You're talking about the back barn, the red barn?
The storage shed. No, not the red barn.
Yeah, I know.
The white barn that sits up on top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
That storage facility that sits on top of the hill where all the campers park,
By the tower.
that was paid from our industry.
And that's a fair board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then they had the questions over the red barn.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
I don't
answered them
want to get
truthfully.
things
And it's, you know,
complicated.
no, it doesn't need to be complicated, but she said to them, she said, you know, sit down with your city,
Yeah,
get something in writing so they could have perpetual, you know, harness racing. And you know as well as I do, nothing's perpetual forever. Even the gun club people will eventually pass away, and there's a lease with them. We all seem to get along down there. All the horse people have horses. We all get along down there. It wasn't your fault. All right? I don't blame any of you. But what I did, and I had an appointment for the mayor at 8:45, and that had gone to Jessica, that was being brought before the Fair Board. But see, if you're a grant guy, and a person's smart, it costs $175 to file an LLC, to call that little section of land agricultural for horses, right? Our industry pays to rebuild barns. They pay for those sports. So between Craig Risch, an $86,000 grant, and a United States government project to work with horses, and that could be a pretty profitable little square patch of land right down there. Just being able to think out of the box. But it's all out there. And I'm sure in the fair, when all the industry leaders come here, they'll say the same thing. You know, but that's all I'm saying. I do not hold one of this board accountable of any means. I just wanted you people to know
it's available.
that it's available, and that there was a man, I never knew his last name, never met him in my life, that walked in and said, I'll fix these barns up for nothing. Just put my plaque at the end of the barn so they know I've been here. That's how proud he was. And I would hope that you would try to contact him and pursue those things. Because everybody has a dream, if that makes sense. The dog park, this, that, everybody has a dream, or they wouldn't get up in the morning, would they? So that's all I have to say to you. And I hope through this, you will honor Mr. Robert Parks, because he was from the military. This town was good to him. Everybody knows in that deed, if it's not maintained like a public park, that it's supposed to go back to the city of Connersville and sold at public auction and given to the poor. That's what his deed said. He had a vision. So there's a lot of grant money available, both federally for historic parks, federally for harness racing. There's a lot of money available. People just have to learn to apply for it. I didn't learn these things overnight. I got slapped in the face so many times it was scary. But I do like to thank you for your time and patience. And perhaps one day, because you do have horses down there, somebody will be involved that's a little knowledgeable of horses. Because those viruses and the sickness, I won't be able to race mine this year. That's a pretty big hit. I don't want to go to another place until they're clear, so I can't, introduce a virus to them. That's why I came to everyone with, say, mandatory vaccines. All right, and thank you so much for you guys' time.
Have you met with our grant?
Pardon?
Have you met with our grant administrator?
No. I actually, I have a grant writer for my own self. I mean, just over different projects, and that's one of the things I'm going to project to her. In this county, there's even on your fair board, there's not one person that represents horses. I can't tell you anything about a cow. I can't tell you about a pig. I can't even tell you how to make jelly. I don't like to cook, right? But I can tell you about a horse. And maybe they could interject someone like that into the community. Because you'd be surprised. We have little kids come down there all the time. They're on the jog cart with my husband. They come back week after week. There was a middle-aged couple that brought a 2-year-old child into the barn last week. Her mother had overdosed on life support. And that girl forgot about mommy. She was sitting there with the horses and talking, this and that. So it's not, our industry is not all bad. And if most of you guys, you have families. And harness racing, we spend more time with each other when we do our own families. That's why it took me 30 years to get back. All right, and thank you for your time.
I do have one more comment about that. If you met with the mayor and Jessica and Kenny, and I don't know who all was there, if there was any fair board members there or not. But I mean, the way they came to us, and I don't know if you know all this story, or was that discussed at all?
I don't think so.
Because the involvement of the park board was they came to us wanting some area, some stalls. And that barn that we loaned to them was actually, as far as we were concerned, was condemned, and we were preparing to tear it down. They said no, they would use it. They would do some improvements to it. And we were like, so they leased it from us.
Right.
What they did with it beyond there, it wasn't, we didn't know what they were going to do. I mean, we knew what they had planned, but bottom line, all we were doing was leasing to the fair board.
I understand, but...
And then beyond that, they leased to you, and I think we were like, we're just leasing to them. So we didn't have a whole lot more, what we thought was involvement in it beyond that, at least. Am I wrong? Anybody?
I understand that, but I also understand, I understand it now. But when you're
Did anybody explain that part to you
what
before?
happened was, and this is like, it's beyond belief to me. I'm in New York in October. I answer an ad. I said, I've got minimum of 20 to bring that I'm gonna train. But we don't have that many stalls. Well, you did if you would have built the other barn. If you were, if you followed what our association said and our grants stipulated. So he calls me back and he said, oh, the city agreed to go ahead and let me use the barn for you. They leased the city barn to me, to the fair board so you could use it. Never in my wildest dreams would I have taken $500,000 insured horses into a condemned barn. Never. So I said, Mr. McQuinley said, you don't have to worry about a thing. You don't have to worry about it. By June 1st, we'll have built another barn. We'll do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And none of it became eventful. And then I started asking questions. And the questions, when you start asking questions, it became
Ruffle feathers.
very ruffled feathers. Very ruffled feathers. And I said, look, let's sit down, have a meeting with the fair board so I can talk, so they could understand where that money came from. We didn't take taxpayers' money. You didn't get a grant from taxpayers. You got our money we worked for. I had to explain to the state of Indiana, it was not the city that did this to me. Because they walked in the barn and the head of maintenance, this is condemned. Rightfully so. But what's hard for me in a business, how does someone lease a condemned barn and expect someone to do business out of that condemned barn? And I've got horses that have gotten hurt. My husband, Mr. Buck, all the people down there helped me clean it up. And instead of just being honest, because there were other places to go. And I came here because my brother lives in Eaton, 12 miles away. And it was the best of both worlds, like I said in the newspaper. And before, that's where when the questions, the flags came up. Because if you know someone's coming to a racetrack since October, you go to your city and say, hey, look, we gotta control the dogs a little bit. We've gotta do this. The other day I was jogging horses and a pit bull attacked one of the horses. I had to call dog control. You try to make an effort. And I didn't make a big stink, my husband didn't make a big stink, but we all try to make an effort because you knew we were coming. They should have talked to the city and said, hey, we got a problem with the manure. Are you gonna be able to move the manure? Are you gonna, the state, when they saw that contract and walked into a couple of the barns, what do you mean, clean your stalls once a week? They were shaking their head. I said, I explained to them that this isn't how our livestock or horses are taken care of. But on the same token, it's okay. They told me that horse people think they own the property when they come. And I said, Mr. Hood, you're sadly mistaken. I'm pretty intelligent. I know I don't have a deed, but I take care of it down there like I own it. I planted flowers that are gonna come back every year. I brought my weed eaters in. Oh, I'll tell you, I brought my weed eaters in, weed eated around all the barns, not just the fair board barns. But I think they should have come to you as the city park, knowing the funding was going to be cut off. from the state and said, hey, can we do something about the racetrack, put a perpetual lease in there, write one paragraph for $1? Because it's been here since 1902. But no one wanted to present that. And I tried explaining to them, they said, well, we denied the bond and we denied fixing this up here. I said, did you ever tell the city that Mr. Risch came here, gonna put huge dollars into these bonds, doesn't own it, doesn't? No. But why? Why? Because it seems like all of you would like people like that in your community. You know, if the tractor pole's being held right there, it's already on the inside, so it's no big deal. Those gentlemen were real nice to us. If the city's using the water truck that we paid for, the tractors we paid for, the harrows that we paid for, the drags, all that equipment that goes on that racetrack, our industry paid for. So if it's all there and you guys don't know, it's time you should. And they should have come to you. They may not like my personality, but my personality is this. If I see something and know it can be fixed, I don't sit on my butt. I've got calluses on my hands thicker than most men. You've got to be able to willing to get off what right here and go put forth an effort. And everybody says, well, we don't want the responsibility. And I truly hope that you cancel that contract over Ted McQuinley having to mow the infield. You see, he told the fair, he told me that in order to get the barn, he has to mow the infield on the racetrack. Cancel it. Because I will tell you this, he told all his fair board members that, and everybody says, well, if Ted dies, who's gonna mow this track? Let me tell you something, it takes 45 minutes. You have my telephone number. I love a tractor. Cancel it because in Mr. Parks's deed, it says the city's to maintain it. Every JC guy, every person in harness racing, Rick Buck, him, all the people that could, we paid for that tractor so we can mow it. We will help you people. We're not asking for nothing because we want to help ourselves. But we also want it to be fair to the city because you people didn't know. You people didn't know that, $1 million worth, or $500,000 worth of horses were coming into your barn. None of yous knew. And I don't think that any of yous knew. Jessica knew because Ted went to her and had a meeting canceled. All right, the meeting was supposed to be a week ago Friday with the mayor at 9:15 because I was trying to stop the grant being turned back into the state so that maybe they could sit down and talk to you people. So a couple $100,000 would still go through Connersville, but they quickly sent that email. And in January you could reapply. $175 for an agricultural society. But for me it's hard because when you look, it's a passion that runs deep. It's a passion that runs deep. My father died, I was 14 years old. 5 brothers and sisters harness racing supported. The best drivers in the world came out of the Midwest. The state of, I don't know if you know anything about racing, the state of Indiana this last year, they had the Breeders' Crown. It's the equivalent of the Kentucky Derby. Hoosier Park had a week-long celebration, and 3 days of that was honoring the veterans. So, all these things, I don't see what's so bad. I don't see what's so bad, So I do not hold you responsible.
I just think, sounds like to me there needs to be further meetings but with
Oh, I'm
both,
sure
with both groups in the city government, what it
I
sounds
think-
like
I
to
think
me.
the city will meet with them, but I can guarantee you our industry will meet.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not right.
Yeah, there's a lot, at least to me, a lot of comments that you made that I mean, I was not aware of at all.
The paper, you know, the
Not that
old-
I'm quite, I mean, I'm not quite, I'm not aware of it. It's older history than what this board is.
Yeah.
And, at least from the board, and I feel comfortable that I'm speaking for the board. If I'm not, somebody speak up. But we signed a lease with the fair board, and beyond that, we were kind of like, you know, whatever goes on beyond that goes on.
But they made.
And when I say that barn was condemned, it was never officially condemned. We just felt like we didn't want horses in there, that we were charging somebody
Right.
to have their barn. Because if it would have fallen in, I mean,
What do you think?
we'd have been sick.
That's what I think about every day, because there's
Mm-hmm.
boards and nails that are just holding those 2x4s up there.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, you didn't have to worry about condemning it because the state looked at it and they were shaking their head.
Yeah.
But out of integrity and a moral turpitude, I do believe that someone should have said, are you willing to accept a condemned barn? And this is how it is. He sent me the pictures of the new barn, but was very quick. The second day I was here, I had to sign a contract that's filed with the city. I have a contract with the fair board, I have a contract with the city, I have and you know, to tell you true, there are no liabilities for me with you, all right? I just wanted honesty and integrity. If I was a different type of person, this would be real ugly. This would be really ugly. Because you can't ask people to lose their living for an entire year and not fix a problem, you know. And an idea to let you know, it cost us $30,000 in shipping from the professional companies just to come here. So if I would have been told, we don't want harness racing and we don't like horses, I wouldn't have paid that to come here. I went to this last week, I've gone to Shelbyville, I've contacted Converse, I've contacted Frankfurt, I've contacted Greenville, Ohio. Come on, you're welcome. There wasn't any of this animosity or ugliness. Can I sponsor a VA race? Because everybody knows the veterans pack the grandstands. You know, I went to your, to your VA centers here. So what was so wrong? And what made some people turn so ugly? And the only rational reason I can figure in my own brain is when you're given state money from our industry and you don't build a barn and the questions are asked. That's the only reason I can figure. Because the tractor pool's already on the inside, the demolition derbies are already on the inside. None of this makes any sense. And it's because you ask questions. You know, all you guys are board members. If somewhere, you know, if you got $200,000 to build your dog park, and there wasn't any dog park, wouldn't Robert Bark in the park, wouldn't they be coming after you saying, where's this dog park?
We didn't get $200,000.
I'm just teasing.
I just want to put that out there.
We'll take it.
Maybe she was gonna give it.
I'm just teasing you, you know.
I know it.
You know, and it just, to me,
Well,
it hurts here.
when they came to us about that barn, I believe we were told or that they were gonna fix that barn up. So we never had any intentions of them renting it out, leasing it out the way it was, because we didn't want to put any more money in it. We were recommended not to do that. It'd be better to tear it down and build a new barn.
Well,
So-
that Sam Henley and the head of maintenance, they said, why don't you just wipe these two barns out here and put the barn right here, because you already have sewer, you already have water, you already have electricity. So if you already have all that, it cut a lot of the expense out of that grant. And it took two people willing to work with each other. But they didn't want that, that no one wanted it. And that's okay, because, I will tell you this. I spoke to Lorraine Graves today, and I told her I was going to come to the city park. And I was going to come to this meeting. Because I don't feel it was right to the citizens. I don't feel it was right to the city. Because all these years, that Fair Board has accepted the money from our industry and didn't know and didn't tell the city park that we got the money to fix the track. They didn't tell the city park that we got $8,000 to build that little judge's booth or amphitheater that's there. They didn't tell them that was a $4,200 bid. They got $8,000 to build it. So, to me, because that track is owned by the city, they had every right to know. Because God forbid, a driver gets killed or a motorcycle goes through their fence or whatever. Who does the liability always fall on? It's gonna fall on the city. So they should have tried to work together and created a friendly atmosphere. I explained to Mr. Gordon, we can have matinees. You don't need approval for the state of Indiana to have matinees, like fake races to teach horses how to race out here. I went to your electricians to see how much it would cost to turn your poles around or the lights around so they could have events at night and be one of the only ones in the state to go ahead and have night racing. I said, where I come from, our agricultural societies, our 4-H, our harness racing, they hold graduations in the amphitheater. And when those kids walk down, those C and D students that are struggling for a scholarship that want to go to college, we hand them scholarships. So what's wrong with all those ideas? It's not like I'm saying, here, let's go out and rob a bank. I'm saying, here, the children deserve a future, whether you're making money or not. If they're playing in the horse races or playing with the cows or playing with the cars, they're not on the streets, they're not doing drugs. It's teaching them responsibility, and it's giving back. It's just giving back, And last comment I will say, and what made me decide to stay those first couple weeks, because I didn't unpack, was Union Savings and Loan. I got a card in the mail. Never went in there, nothing. I got a card in the mail and a big laminated thing of that newspaper article, and they sent it to me. And I sent it up to my mother in Ohio, who's 84 years old, because she can't travel. I called those girls at the bank, didn't know their names. I think they might have thought that, they might have thought I was a terrorist or something. I said, how many people working today? And went to the ice cream store. It was a hot day, and ordered everybody ice cream cakes. Dropped it off the bank and left. And those people, and the teachers, and the woman that I rented, the Savoys, the people in those block facilities asked me to stay here, to be able to open the doors and not walk out that back door. And I told him I've never walked out the back door anywhere I've ever been. But I've never been anywhere like Carpentersville, because to me that part is just shocking. To me it's unacceptable. So when you guys feel like you want to sit down and talk with them, go ahead. Maybe in January I'll see you up at the grant committee of the state hearings, so you'll be able to do something to help yourselves, if that's possible. Because they voted not to. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I feel like I don't want to talk so badly after that. But my only thing I wanted to bring up was we had rented the Liberty Building for our grandson's graduation party. And we rented it in late April. And I drove around there and looked, and at the time that I looked at it, there were tables in the south end on top of each other, and the north end was had some open space to it. So then in June, when
John, do you need her to come up here so you can hear?
Would be helpful.
Yeah, he can't pick you up on the microphone.
So then when we went in June to do the actual set up the party, I went June the 2nd on a Saturday and was shocked. There were rows of tables. The building was solid with tables. From north to south to east to west, the full thing was solid. There was no floor space. And so there was a little garage or a garage sale in the front, and their tables were right up next to where you walk in. And I watched them, and they had to put their stuff on the tables and whatever. And I thought, this is going to be hard tomorrow, but maybe after the garage sale, there would be floor space where we could set up tables to serve or whatever, or do whatever we wanted to. But then we went up at 7 o'clock Sunday morning, June the 3rd. The tables were still that way. So we rented it, and we only paid $50. I'm not concerned about the money. I could care less about the money. It was that it took us from 7 till, because those tables are heavy, and we weren't aware that the tables would be that way. And Gary and I are in our 70s. It was a little tough. Those tables are heavy to move them enough to get enough floor space. That's all I was wanting, was floor space. And what I keep going back to was when we rented the building, when we actually paid in April, we paid in May. You had to pay it, she said we had a month to pay it. So it must have been around the 3rd of May or in April that I paid in May for. But April was when I looked at it. There was plenty of floor space, plenty of working area. But with all those tables in there, you couldn't fix anything. You couldn't do anything. And Miss Fall asked me if I went around and looked at the other buildings. I did that day. And every shelter and the pavilion had, tables were pushed to the north end and the south end, but in the middle was plenty of space to do whatever you wanted to do. I didn't need the whole Liberty Building to begin with. I just paid the full so I could have it. But I didn't get the full building. I got about 6 foot of anything because we had to move all that stuff. Now granted, you can't set up exactly how every person wants every building at every meeting. I understand that. But I'm not understanding why when you fix those shelters, the Liberty Building and the Pavilion can't be done the same way, why those tables can't be left in one end or the other and half the building you have floor space so that people can plan or arrange or do whatever they want to use the building for. That's my only thing, and I don't understand why it was changed and filled up with tables, but to know, so that there was none stacked. They were all laid out like in rows from east to west and north to south. There just was no room to move. And a lot of those tables are falling apart. So when you go to move them, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't hardly handle them because there was only the two of us. I would just suggest that there be, and I did ask, I said, what would happen if, by it being an open building, a shelter rather than a locked, facility, what am I supposed to do if I go in there Sunday morning and somebody's took over what I've paid for? And she said, there will be somebody here and you can talk to them, or you just show the people that took over your receipt. I questioned that at the time and should have pushed farther, because what could I have done about it? I'd had to go get whoever supposedly was to be there. Well, when all this happened, I started hunting for somebody. I went to the Miller Building, there was nobody there. I went to what was the old park house. Nobody there, couldn't find anybody. I saw a man driving around doing the trash, and I tried to get to him, but I couldn't. And we were trying to get that building ready for that party, and so I didn't go directly to him because he was going around doing the trash. He had a full-time job just doing that, let alone dealing with somebody's got a gripe about a building. But a couple things I'd like to see is there be somebody on that premises at Miller Building or at when you pay for what you want, that there's somebody where you can go to if you do have a problem like I had. Like, who do I talk to? I might have been told, sorry, can't move, can't do anything, but I couldn't go to anybody, I couldn't find anybody to say, what can I do? And another thing is, okay, just rent the Liberty Building, put the tables in one half. Don't do this, you can rent half the building or you can have the whole building. $25 for half a building, $50 for, find a medium price, stack them in one end or the other, and let the people decide how they're gonna set it up. But then let them have floor space as well as, so they can arrange it. We couldn't do anything with the tables. And we were pushed, to get ready for we were there at the park trying to get those tables moved till time for graduation, and we started at 7. And, that's not your problem. I understand that. It is not. I am not saying you guys, that the park people should set up people's stuff. But what I think should be done when you go in and you rent a building, there be a sheet of paper that says how you're going to find that building. Like you're going to have X number of tables in that building for your use. There will be electricity, because I called back to say, do I have electricity in that Liberty Building? I didn't know. If it's on a sheet of paper that I'm handed when I pay rent for it, usually when you rent something, you get a piece of paper that explains the building, somewhere. So if we could have that, it might save people some time. But I don't understand, from the beginning, I don't understand why that many tables are in that pavilion or in that Liberty Building. Ms. Fall said, well, that's the capacity. And I think she meant you have the number of tables the place will hold available for them if they need that many tables. And I understand that, but they got to have room to set up for whatever they're doing.
So I would just like to suggest that at the pavilion or whatever you're doing, have a small sheet of paper that describes the Red Cross building, the pavilion, what's in the pavilion, what's in the Liberty building, what you can do with what, so that all that's, you know that before you go up there. And maybe on the pavilion and the Liberty building, because that's the biggest two, don't have a half deal. Just have a set price for that building, because a lot of it's going to be taken up with the number of tables she said she has at each one. Because I looked around and the ones like the shelter that faced the Park Road, there was that number of tables, but they were pushed to one side so you had floor space to do your own arrangement. But I'm not criticizing. Please, I was frustrated the day I talked to Ms. Fall. I was frustrated the day I talked to the secretary. Granted, wasn't the nicest person in the world, because I was frustrated. I was tired from having to move those tables. They're very, very, very heavy. And they're bad. Some of them's in bad shape. They're hard to move, and they're warped, and you know, all that. And that's just the way it is in a park. I understand that, but if you're going to pay for something, make it a little more realistic. You know, and if you have the paper, if you had a paper when you paid for the receipt that explained the building, like the office, the administration building's what we always called it, you know, say what's in there, how many it'll hold. That I would have liked to have known how many each thing held, you know, and I think other people would too, but it's small potatoes, people.
The guy delivering the trash or picking up trash was the guy you talked to.
Yeah, and not that when you say, well, somebody will be here, I did what you shouldn't do. I assumed he would be at the Miller Building in the park office, not have to track him down in the park. Just tell people that.
Yeah.
Then they'll know who to go find. I wouldn't want his job if he's got to listen to us, right? Plus do the trash. But I'm just saying, at least I would have known, because I didn't quite put the guy picking up trash with somebody that would know what this old lady's wanting to have in a building available for her, you know. So it's just a suggestion.
Good suggestion.
You got enough problems with that all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
She's cute.
Anybody else?
Guys, good evening.
Evening.
My name's Jerry McLaughlin.
Hi.
Just a question for you. It's more of a question to answer. Get back with me. I believe last board meeting you had, you voted to possibly take over grounds and concessions at the Carnersville Babe Ruth next year, or is that correct?
What we decided was to talk with Keith on what we would take over, but we are going to take over either a portion or all of it.
Okay, so it's still a negotiation stage. There's no...
Well, we're doing something, yes, but we're going to sit down with Keith and a couple of board members and discuss some things.
All right, I just want to make sure there's no vote yet, things like that taking place. I didn't...
They voted to take it over.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about grounds concessions. Being grounds, and for those, if you look at it this way, we have concessions to pay for umpires. And we maintain grounds because we know you guys have a lot on your plate. You have seasonal employees, you can't hire extra part-time employees.
Well, that's why we took a vote, so we can be prepared to bring in some extra.
Okay, all right. Well, I won't push any issues, and we'll talk about it later on then at a separate board meeting down in Babe Ruth. We'll go from there. Sorry about that, guys. I just wanted to find out, get some details.
No?
Because we just had some concerns, because we know if it rains at 4:45, your guys are off at 3 o'clock because of union contracts. They can't get that field ready. We're volunteers, parents. We get it ready. We play at 5:15, 5:30 if it's a little bit pushed back. And we don't want to run into that issue if you guys had that grounds. Just want to avoid that because we like to play ball. So, all right, guys, I'll get out of your hair. Appreciate it. Thank you. No problem.
Anybody else? board. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
We get paid nothing to do this, by the way.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn in a second.
Second.
Been seconded, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Meeting adjourned.